Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we're going to talk about Warhammer 40,000 and we're going to complain about Games Workshop a little bit. It's about kit bashing, stuff like that. So, it's something we've already covered a little bit in the past, but there is a very specific thing that's happened that sort of reignited my disappointment in certain decisions from Games Workshop regarding, well, things like HQs and kit bashing and all of that stuff. And it shows a lack of communication between two different arms of Games Workshop in this case, which I think is worth highlighting. And I'm thinking the more we talk about this, the more we discuss it, and basically the more of a fuss we kick up, perhaps the more chance that they will actually do something about it and either sort out their communication or fix what they're doing, because I don't think what they're doing is correct or working. So, what this is, I'm going to link this down in the description. I'm not going to display it on the screen just because it's already a bit fuzzy, and it being on video and being scrolled is not going to help that. It's not going to be easy to read. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm going to read out a post made by a guy called Dante, and he posted on the Warhammer 40,000 page asking a question. I will link to this in the description so you can see it for yourselves, but I'll just quickly run through what he said, what Games Workshop's response is, and why it's a little bit of an issue. So here we go. So this is Dante asking a question of the Warhammer 40,000 team. Is there any good reason why the Autarch was completely gutted of his war gear options? The Codex has made the faction as a whole very flexible, but the most flexible character in the whole army that players would model to represent how they wanted to play, and in many cases represented them, has been stripped of everything. For a lot of players, their dude is everything to them, and kit bashing their warlord with fluffy options is what makes the game fun. You're taking the fluff and the fun of kit bashing off of the table with these latest changes. It really sucks to have Autarchs and Exarchs that we've worked hard on taken away from us as viable options on the table like they have been for years. He was already stripped of a lot in the index, but now this is just incredibly disappointing. Can this obvious wrong be made right? He can't even take a catapult anymore, referring to a shuriken catapult. I mean, reasonable kind of question from Dante. As I say, I'm not a huge Eldar person. From what I understand, the Autarch has essentially got nothing at this stage, which is kind of daft to me. Although, as Warhammer 40,000 say, well, the people who run the Facebook page for Warhammer 40,000 say, "Hey Dante, the rules in the Craft Worlds book represents models we currently sell. Forcing players to convert models to make options available in the Codex isn't cool on our part." I've immediately got a problem with this response. Imagine a new hobbyist trying to get into the game, having to convert or kit bash their HQ choice. There's nothing to say you can't create house rules for your Autarch for games with friends. I know I'd play against a cool converted model. And the response to this is Dante saying, "The rules in the Craft World books represent models we currently sell. As he points out, the foot-slogging Autarch isn't in the current range and wasn't in the made-to-order sale. The old Autarch with swooping hawk wings in the made-to-order sale has a Banshee Mask and Shuriken weapon, which isn't on the Codex datasheet either. You guys even say in your own article that Eldar parts are easy to swap in Kitbash because they use similar joints, so a new player should have no problem swapping his pistol, for example. Now, no one has that option." Yes. Thank you, Dante, for pointing that out. That is important. That is the major issue that I have with this. So what is happening here is that essentially two different arms of Games Workshop are working off two different rules, off two different statements, off two different set of guidelines. The design team seem to be working off one set, the Warhammer community team seem to be running off another set, and the people who run things like the Facebook page are running off a completely different set. According to the people on the Warhammer 40,000 Facebook page, when questions like this are asked, the answer is, well, the reason that you cannot take this model with this options anymore is because we don't sell it. We don't think it's fair for you to have to basically make your own stuff. If we don't sell it, it's not available. That's how it works. Except, as Dante points out, that's bullshit. And it's bullshit in so many cases that it's kind of ridiculous that that's being touted as the rule. And this is where the issue lies. This is where the breakdown in communication is coming from. You cannot, and I mean this in a, well, you can, you should not, I should say, but you cannot, for instance, have an article about the new Eldar Start Collecting box, wherein you explicitly state that there are enough things in that box if you mix two different kits together to equip stuff with a certain loadout. And they even say, in that very same article, which I will link down below once I found it, I've read it recently, so I don't really need to have it right in front of me to remember. Can't remember exactly which weapon it was, but they even say that on the cover of the box, they have done a little bit of sneaky kit bashing to give the Wraith Lord a shuriken cannon, maybe? Something like that. They said, in that article, talking about a start collecting box, which at this point, let's face it, a lot of the time is the go-to thing for a new player starting a new army, because it makes the most sense, because it gives you a little playable force and it's cheaper. They outright say that because of the kits in there, you can mix and match, which is called kit bashing. And they even kit bash something themselves, which is on the front of the box. The actual box has it. But then, on the Warhammer 40,000 community page, Facebook page, it's like, oh no, we don't want people to have to kit bash. No, if it's not being sold like that, then you can't take it. Well, that's fine, but Dante actually had specific examples of things that are not in the codex that they themselves sold. That's another thing as well. With things like the made-to-order stuff, is any attention actually paid to what gear the stuff on the made-to-order things has? Because he was very, very quick and very good to point out that, well, actually, you actually sold a version of the Autarch with gear that you cannot give him in the codex. So how does that work? I mean, if you're going to sell the model, right, the whole point is we haven't given them those rules, we haven't given them those options because we don't sell that model. But then you sell a model with options that it can't even take. What does that mean? What part of that is supposed to be simple for new players? This is the other thing as well. What, to me, sounds more simple? A new player buying an Autarch from the made-to-order drive that they, it's available for a limited time. They're like, oh yeah, I quite like the look of that. I'd like an Autarch. That's the HQ, isn't it? Yeah, I'll get one of these Autarchs. It looks cool. Then he gets it. Can't use it. It's got gear options that the Autarch just doesn't have. What's he going to do? He's then got to go on to God knows how many websites and try and work out why people are saying that his HQ isn't legal. I mean, what sounds more simple? Someone having to deal with that, or someone just kit bashing their own HQ? Added to which, the examples aren't even limited to Eldar. I mean, this is the thing we talked about before, I remember now. The Grey Knight stuff. The fact that Corsaro Khan in the Codex doesn't have a bike because they don't sell him on a bike, so you have to use the index entry, which is fucking dumb, and it completely removes the point of them saying, oh, well, we want to make it so you just got one book and all that stuff. Well, clearly not, because you have to use index entries for stuff that isn't in the Codex because you don't sell it as a model. Well, having said to someone that the Autarch can't take this and that and the other because we don't sell the model, I'm sorry, what do you do if you're Grey Knights again? Given that Grey Knights have approximately fuck all in the way of HQ models. In fact, I'm going to have a quick look. I'm going to do a quick count. Let's have a quick count, shall we, of the options for Grey Knights. And what we'll do is we'll see what they've got. We'll see what they've got. Because surely they can't have an option in the Codex that they don't sell. So, okay, so we've got Grandmaster Voldus, we've got Kaldor Drago, we've got Nemesis Dread Knight, we've got Castellan Crow, we've got Brother Captain Stern. Oh yeah, and we have a Grey Knight's Brother Captain. And a Tech Marine as well. But just out of interest, if you want a Grey Knight's Brother Captain that doesn't have a halberd and a Stormbolter, what do you do? I mean, it shouldn't even be in the Codex, should it? Surely, because they don't sell. If they don't sell the model, it's not in the Codex. They want to keep it simple, no kit bashing. Except you can still make Grey Knight HQs that have got gear other than what is on the Grey Knight's Brother Captain model. So, where's that rule? Why is that rule only applicable to the Autarch? Why is it not applicable to the Grey Knights? Why has they still got options? Just wondering. But this is my issue. This is my issue with all of this. You cannot say one thing and then do another thing. You can't do that. It just makes you look dumb. It makes you look stupid. It makes you look like you don't know what you're doing. It looks like double standards, frankly, is what it looks like. I mean, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing with the Grey Knights. You can now have a Grand Master and a Nemesis Dread Knight. I don't see a model for a Grand Master and a Nemesis Dread Knight here, so why is it in the Codex? They don't sell it. Why is it in the Codex? I mean, you're happy to strip all the gear from an Autarch because you don't sell an Autarch with all of the options that it used to have. But Grey Knights is absolutely fine, knock yourself out. You can kitbash to your heart's content. What is the reasoning? Where's the internal consistency? Where's the logic? Why is it just contradiction on top of contradiction? It's genuinely frustrating, because at this point, Games Workshop, I would argue, do more things right than wrong by some considerable margin. I mean, they used to be garbage. Let's be honest, they had a really rough couple of years where they were just really shocking, really. And they've just made so many leaps and bounds in terms of communication, in terms of miniature quality and stuff is through the roof, way better than it used to be. The overall quality of what they do has risen by a huge degree. But then we still get stuff like this, where it's like, what? The design team can say one thing, the Warhammer community team can say another thing, and the poor sod who has to answer questions on the Warhammer 40k Facebook page has got a piece of paper that says, if someone asks this, put this in response. Even when the thing they're putting in response is clearly bollocks. Like, it's clearly just nonsense. It doesn't apply to so many things that it may as well not exist. The argument of, well, we don't sell that model with those options, so we took those options away, would be absolutely fine if it wasn't for the fact that they don't sell other models with those options, but they've still got access to those options. A point in case being the stuff in the Eldar Start Collecting box, where if you buy the individual unit, you won't have the parts to create the loadout that you might want. But it's okay, because if you buy another box, then you will have the parts. Guess what, lads? That's exactly the fucking same as sticking other bits onto an Autarch. It's exactly the fucking same as constructing your own Grey Knights HQ that doesn't have what the Brother Captain comes with. It's exactly the fucking same as kitbashing yourself a Grandmaster in a Nemesis Dreadnought. Because that doesn't exist as a model, but you still say people can use it. Some of the weapons options on the Eldar stuff doesn't exist as a single boxed product, but they can still take it. So why the fuck is some poor bastard having to sit there and tell completely obvious nonsense to people who are rightfully asking why their options are being taken away? And I will add one more thing just before we finish this, because it's just been 12 minutes of me ranting and being condescending at Games Workshop, but that's only because they need to sort the shit out sometimes. Every now and again they've got to sort it out. You either say that you want people to kitbash, or you say you don't want them to kitbash. You cannot have it both ways. There have been quite a few articles now on the Warhammer community site talking specifically about kitbashing. There's been stuff in White Dwarf specifically about kitbashing. You cannot build up kitbashing as a vital and important part of the hobby and then tell new players, oh, but we thought that you wouldn't want to do that, so we took your options away. You cannot have it both ways. It doesn't look good, it doesn't sound good, and it just makes what you do completely inconsistent. It just doesn't make any sense. On a level of comparing your products on a one-on-one basis, it makes no sense if one specific thing has been just, overruled completely, and yet the principles that you are saying you shouldn't do, like you shouldn't be beholden to as a new player, are embraced fully by other armies. That makes no sense to anybody. It doesn't make sense to new players, to veterans. It doesn't make sense to the poor sod writing it out on the Facebook page. Get some consistency. Pick one. Either kitbashing is good and you want people to do it, in which case leave the options on the table, or kitbashing is bad and you don't want to do it, so stop telling us to do it, and stop putting stuff in the codexes and on the website that requires people to kitbash to get what they want. Pick one. That's it. That's the message. Fucking pick one. To kitbash or not to kitbash? I put that question to you. Jesus Christ. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments below. Is it actually as bad as I think it is in terms of horrendous inconsistency and just double standards all over the shop? Or do you not think it's such a big deal? Do you want to see more options, or are you happy it's being streamlined? Be interested to see what you think, although I'll be honest, I suspect most of you will just agree with me. This doesn't feel like a particularly risky video, I'll be honest. So yeah, just let me know what you think, and I will read them as I always do. In the meantime, if you liked it, give it a like, all of that shit. There's other links, Patreon, subscribe, videos, the lot. You know it by now. Click them if you want, don't click if you don't want to. It's entirely up to you, and I will see you for the next video. Toodaloo.